We found it. After all these years, we've actually found it.
It's really the Ark.
Imagine a world where the most sacred object of the Old Testament, a chest believed to hold the very tablets inscribed by the finger of God, isn't lost, but hidden in plain sight. Perhaps even in a bustling modern city, or even in your neighborhood. This is just one chapter in the greatest treasure hunt of all time, a mystery so profound that it has driven men to madness, launched 1,000 expeditions, inspired Hollywood blockbusters, and remains unsolved after 2,600 years. Tonight, we're diving deep into the ultimate question: where is God's golden throne, and what happens when mortals try to find it? Our story begins in the scorching wilderness of Sinai, around 1400 BCE. Moses has just descended from Mount Sinai, his face literally glowing from his encounter with the Almighty. The stone tablets in his hands contain the 10 Commandments, written by the finger of God himself. But God isn't finished with Moses. He's about to give him the blueprint for the most extraordinary object ever created by human hands. Make an ark of acacia wood, God commands, and then proceeds to give specifications so precise they sound like they came from a divine architect. Every measurement, every material, every decoration is specified down to the smallest detail. This isn't just furniture, this is the blueprint for God's earthly throne room. The construction takes the finest craftsmen of Israel months to complete. Picture it, a chest of acacia wood overlaid with pure gold inside and out. It measures exactly 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high, roughly 4 feet by 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet. Golden rings at each corner hold poles of acacia wood, also overlaid with gold, so the ark can be carried without being touched. But it's the lid called the mercy seat or atonement cover that truly defies imagination. Hammered from a single piece of pure gold are 2 cherubim, their wings spread wide, facing each other with their eyes looking down upon the ark. This is where the visible glory of God will rest, where his voice will speak to Moses. What goes inside this golden chest will blow your mind. First, the original stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, not copies, but the actual stones that God's finger carved on Mount Sinai. Second, Aaron's rod, a dead piece of wood that miraculously budded, bloomed, and produced almonds overnight to prove God's choice of the priesthood. Third, a golden jar containing manna, the supernatural bread that sustained Israel for 40 years in the wilderness. But the ark wasn't just a storage container for holy relics. According to biblical accounts, it was a weapon of mass destruction that made nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. When the Israelites carried it into battle, armies fled in terror. When they crossed the Jordan River, the waters piled up in a heap, allowing millions of people to cross on dry land. At Jericho, they marched the ark around the city for 7 days, and on the 7th day, the walls didn't just fall, they collapsed inward, creating a perfect ramp for attack. The power was so terrifying that even the Israelites feared it. When a man named Uzzah reached out to steady the ark when oxen stumbled, he was struck dead instantly. When the Philistines captured it, tumors and plagues broke out in every city where they took it. Their idol Dagon fell on its face and broke into pieces in the ark's presence. They couldn't get rid of it fast enough. The Golden Age and the ominous prophecy. For over 400 years, the ark resided in the Holy of Holies of Solomon's temple, the most magnificent building ever constructed. Only the high priest could enter its presence, and only once a year, on the Day of Atonement, after elaborate purification rituals. One wrong step, one impure thought, and death was instant. King Solomon's temple was a wonder of the ancient world. Its walls were lined with cedar and overlaid with gold. Precious stones adorned every surface. But at its heart, in the innermost sanctuary, sat the ark, surrounded by darkness so thick it was called the thick darkness where God dwells. But around 700 BCE, something ominous happens. The prophet Jeremiah delivers a stunning prophecy. "In those days, when your numbers have increased greatly in the land, declares the Lord, people will no longer say, 'The ark of the covenant of the Lord.' It will never enter their minds or be remembered. It will not be missed, nor will another one be made." What did Jeremiah know? Was this prophecy, or was he revealing a plan already in motion? The last sighting and the great vanishing. The last definitive biblical mention of the ark places it in Solomon's temple around 700 BCE. But then, as Babylon's armies approached Jerusalem in 586 BCE, something unprecedented happens. The most precious object in human history simply vanishes. When Nebuchadnezzar's forces ransack the temple, they catalog everything they take as plunder. The biblical account is meticulous. The bronze pillars, the movable stands, and the bronze sea that were at the temple of the Lord. The pots, shovels, wick trimmers, dishes, and all the bronze articles, the gold and silver basins. Everything is listed. Everything except the one thing that should have been mentioned first, the Ark of the Covenant. This isn't an oversight. Babylonian record keepers were obsessively detailed. They knew the value of everything they looted. The fact that the Ark isn't mentioned in their extensive inventories means only one thing. It wasn't there when they arrived. But where did it go? And more importantly, who moved it? Theory 1. The Ethiopian Empire of Secrets. Our first stop takes us 1,500 miles south to Ethiopia, to a small city called Aksum that claims to hold the secret that has eluded the world for millennia. In the heart of this ancient city stands the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, and according to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Ark of the Covenant has been here for over 2,000 years. The Ethiopian story is straight out of a Hollywood epic. They claim that when the Queen of Sheba visited King Solomon around 950 BCE, she didn't just come for wisdom, she came for love. Their union produced a son, Menelik Ethest, who would become the first emperor of Ethiopia. When Menelik grew up and visited his father in Jerusalem, Solomon gave him a replica of the ark to take back to Ethiopia. But here's where it gets interesting. Ethiopian tradition claims that Menelik's companions secretly switched the replica with the real ark, taking the authentic one to safety in Ethiopia. Sound like fantasy? Consider the evidence. Ethiopian Jews, known as the Beta Israel or Falasha, practiced religious customs that were virtually identical to ancient Israelite temple worship customs. They could only have known if they had direct contact with the original Jewish priesthood. Their religious calendar, their dietary laws, their ritual sacrifices, even their claim to be descendants of the tribe of Dan, all point to connections that predate most Jewish diaspora communities. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church doesn't just claim to have the Ark, they've built an entire religious system around protecting it. They say it's guarded by a single monk called the Guardian, who is chosen for life and is the only person allowed to see it. When a guardian dies, a new one is chosen, and the secret passes with him to the grave. No photographs, no outside verification, no exceptions. But here's what's really intriguing. In the 1992nd, British journalist Graham Hancock spent years investigating the Ethiopian claim. What he discovered was a trail of evidence that stretched back centuries. Ancient Ethiopian manuscripts, church records, and oral traditions all consistently tell the same story. Moreover, the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion sits on what appears to be much older foundations, suggesting that something important has been kept there for far longer than the current church building. The Ethiopian government has never allowed international verification, citing both religious sensitivity and national security. But in 2009, the Ethiopian patriarch made a stunning announcement. He would reveal the Ark to the world. The announcement made international headlines. Then, just days later, he mysteriously changed his mind, claiming he had been misunderstood. What made him back down? What did he know that we don't done? Theory 2. The Jerusalem Underground, secrets beneath the holy city. What if the Ark never left Jerusalem at all? What if it's been sitting right under our noses for 2,600 years, buried in secret chambers beneath the most contested piece of real estate on earth, the Temple Mount? This theory hinges on a mysterious passage in 2 Chronicles 35-3, where King Josiah tells the Levites to put the holy ark in the temple that Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, built. Why would he need to tell them to put it back if it had never been moved? Some scholars believe this cryptic verse refers to a secret hiding place that was prepared for exactly this purpose. Ancient Jewish writings, including the Talmud and the writings of Maimonides, speak of elaborate tunnel systems and hidden chambers beneath the Temple Mount. These weren't just storage areas, they were divine insurance policies, prepared for the day when Jerusalem would fall and the temple treasures would need to be hidden. The evidence for underground chambers is compelling. In 1867, British explorer Charles Warren discovered a series of tunnels and cisterns beneath the Temple Mount. In the 1962nd, Rabbi Yehuda Getz, former chief rabbi of the Western Wall, claimed to have found a chamber beneath the Temple Mount that contained ancient temple vessels. But before he could fully explore it, the Muslim authorities sealed the tunnel with concrete. More recently, ground-penetrating radar surveys have detected numerous voids and chambers beneath the Temple Mount. But here's the problem. The Temple Mount is now home to the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, 2 of Islam's most sacred sites. Any excavation would be seen as an act of aggression that could literally start World War I-II. In the 1982nd, a group of Israeli rabbis and archaeologists formed a secret organization called the Temple Mount Faithful. Their goal was to locate and retrieve the temple treasures, including the Ark. Some members attempted unauthorized digs, others used ground-penetrating radar. All were stopped by Israeli authorities who feared the political and religious consequences of their discoveries. But perhaps the most intriguing evidence comes from an unexpected source. In the 1992nd, a team of researchers led by physicist Dr. Thomas McGowan used advanced electromagnetic equipment to scan beneath the Temple Mount. They detected what appeared to be a large metallic object in a chamber approximately 20 feet below the Dome of the Rock, exactly where the Holy of Holies would have been located in Solomon's Temple. The Israeli government immediately classified the findings. The research was never published. Dr. McGowan's team was disbanded and further scanning was prohibited. What did they find that was so sensitive it required a government cover-up? Theory 3. The Jeremiah connection, hidden until the end of days. The most biblically supported theory comes from an unexpected source. The apocryphal book of 2 Maccabees, written around 100 BCE. According to this account, the prophet Jeremiah, acting on divine instruction, took the ark and the altar of incense to the mountain where Moses climbed up and saw the heritage of God, Mount Nebo, in present-day Jordan. The text claims that Jeremiah found a cave and sealed the ark inside it, saying, "The place shall remain unknown until God gathers his people together again and shows his mercy." He reportedly cursed anyone who would try to find it before God's appointed time. Mount Nebo is where Moses died after seeing the promised land, making it a logical hiding place for the most sacred objects of Moses' law. The area is riddled with caves, many of which have never been fully explored. In 1933, archaeologists discovered the remains of a 4th century church on Mount Nebo, built to commemorate Moses' death. But beneath the church, they found much older foundations and a complex of caves. In the 1972, Jordanian authorities launched a systematic exploration of the Mount Nebo caves. They found evidence of ancient habitation, religious artifacts, and several chambers that had been deliberately sealed in antiquity, but they found no ark. Or at least, that's what they reported publicly. But here's where it gets interesting. In 1981, the same year that Ron Wyatt claimed to find the Ark in Jerusalem, a team of Jordanian archaeologists made a discovery in one of the Mount Nebo caves that they immediately classified. The discovery was so significant that the cave was sealed with concrete and placed under military guard. To this day, the Jordanian government refuses to discuss what they found. The Raiders and the Revelation, HT. Ron Wyatt's incredible claim. Which brings us back to Ron Wyatt, the amateur archaeologist whose claims about finding the Ark make Indiana Jones look like a documentary. Wyatt, a nurse anesthetist from Tennessee with no formal archaeological training, became obsessed with biblical archaeology in the 1972. He claimed to have found Noah's Ark, the real Mount Sinai, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the crossing point of the Red Sea. But his most explosive claim came in 1982, when he announced that he had found the Ark of the Covenant in a cave system beneath Calvary in Jerusalem, the very place where Jesus was crucified. According to Wyatt's account, he was exploring cracks in the rock near the Damascus Gate when an earthquake opened up a passage into an ancient tunnel system. Following the tunnels for hours, he came upon a chamber that took his breath away. There, sitting exactly where it had been placed over 2,500 years earlier, was the Ark of the Covenant. But Wyatt's story gets even more incredible. He claimed that when he tried to photograph the Ark, his camera equipment repeatedly malfunctioned. When he tried to remove artifacts from the chamber, he was physically prevented by an invisible force. Most shocking of all, he claimed that dark stains on the ceiling above the Ark were the blood of Jesus Christ, which had dripped through cracks in the rock during the crucifixion. Wyatt said he secretly retrieved a sample of this blood and had it analyzed by a laboratory in Israel. The results, he claimed, showed blood with only 24 chromosomes instead of the normal 4, 6, 2, 3 from the mother, Mary, and 1 Y chromosome from the father, God. He claimed this was scientific proof of the virgin birth. The archaeological establishment dismissed Wyatt's claims as fantasy. The Israeli government denied that he had ever been given permission to excavate. The laboratory he claimed analyzed the blood said they had no record of such a test. Wyatt never produced photographs or physical evidence of his discoveries. But here's what's puzzling. Wyatt maintained his claims until his death in 1999, even when they brought him ridicule and financial ruin. he never tried to profit from his alleged discoveries. He claimed that God had shown him these things not for personal gain, but to strengthen faith in the final days before Christ's return. Was Ron Wyatt a delusional fantasist, or did he stumble upon the greatest archaeological discovery in history? The fact that we're still debating it 40 years later suggests his story struck a nerve that mere fantasy couldn't touch. The Lemba connection, ADNA, and the Lost Tribe. One of the most fascinating modern developments in the Ark mystery comes from an unexpected place, the Genetic Laboratories of London. In the 1992nd, British geneticist Dr. Tudor Parfitt was investigating the claims of a South African tribe called the Lemba, who claimed to be descendants of Jews who left Jerusalem over 2,000 years ago. The Lemba practiced customs remarkably similar to Jewish law. They didn't eat pork, they circumcised their sons. They had a lunar calendar, and their oral traditions spoke of coming from a place called Senna, possibly a reference to Sinai. Most intriguingly, they claimed to possess a sacred drum called the Goma Lungundu that was a replica of the original Ark of the Covenant. Dr. Parfitt's genetic testing revealed that the Lemba men carried genetic markers consistent with Middle Eastern Jewish populations. But it was the Ngoma Lungundu that truly captured his attention. According to Lemba tradition, this sacred object had the power to destroy enemies, could not be touched by non-priests, and had been carried with them in their migrations from the north. When Dr. Parfitt examined the Ngoma Lungundu, he made a startling discovery. Radiocarbon dating showed that parts of the object were over 600 years old, making it one of the oldest sacred objects in sub-Saharan Africa. But more importantly, its construction and symbolic decorations bore unmistakable similarities to ancient Middle Eastern religious artifacts. The Lemba elders told Dr. Parfitt that the Ngoma Lungundu was built as a replica of a much more ancient sacred object that their ancestors had been forced to leave behind when they fled Jerusalem. Could the Lemba be the key to understanding what happened to the original Ark? Did ancient priests carry replicas of the Ark to safety, while the original remained hidden? The Templar Trail, Knights and Hidden Treasures. No discussion of lost biblical treasures would be complete without mentioning the Knights Templar, the medieval military order that has become synonymous with hidden treasures and ancient mysteries. According to various theories, the Templars discovered the Ark during their occupation of Jerusalem from 1118 to 1187 CE and secretly transported it to Europe. The Templar theory gained momentum in the 20th century with the discovery of extensive underground chambers beneath the Temple Mount. These excavations, conducted by the Templars themselves, were far more extensive than previously believed. Some researchers suggest that the Templars weren't just guarding pilgrimage routes, they were conducting a systematic archaeological excavation of the Temple Mount. The evidence for this theory includes the Templars' sudden and mysterious wealth after their establishment in Jerusalem. They went from 9 poor knights living in the ruins of Solomon's Temple to the most powerful financial organization in Europe within a few decades. Where did this wealth come from? Furthermore, Templar churches across Europe were built with unusual architectural features that some believe were designed to house sacred relics. The famous Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, built by a Templar-connected family, contains stone carvings that some interpret as references to the Ark of the Covenant. When the Templars were suppressed in 1307, their treasure vanished. Some believe it was hidden in Scotland, others in France. Still others suggest it was taken to the New World by Templar refugees. but no definitive proof has ever been found. The modern hunt, age technology meets ancient mystery. The search for the Ark hasn't stopped in the modern era. If anything, it has intensified with the development of new technologies and the involvement of serious researchers with substantial funding. In the 1982nd, American researcher Tom Kreutzer claimed to have found the Ark in a cave near Mount Nebo using ground-penetrating radar. He produced photographs of what he claimed was the Ark, but experts quickly identified them as fakes, created with a wooden replica covered in gold paint. The 1992nd saw an expedition led by researcher Bob Cornuke, who believed the Ark might be hidden at Jabal al-Lawz in Saudi Arabia, his candidate for the real Mount Sinai. Using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar, his team detected anomalies that they believed might indicate hidden chambers. But Saudi authorities refused to allow excavation. In 2005, British researcher Norm Franz launched the Ark Search Project, using advanced computer modeling to analyze all known theories about the Ark's location. His team created probability maps based on historical, biblical, and archaeological data. Their analysis suggested that the most likely locations were either beneath the Temple Mount or in the mountains of Jordan. More recently, the History Channel funded an expedition to Ethiopia to investigate the claims of the Church of Our Lady, Mary of Zion. Using thermal imaging, ground-penetrating radar, and other non-invasive technologies, researchers attempted to peer inside the church's inner sanctum. The results were inconclusive but intriguing. They detected a large metallic object within the heavily guarded chapel.